Hey everybody. So I asked some of my friends what sort of things they might like to see me talk about on my vlog, like what kind of things they might want to learn. And one of my friends asked me what sort of things help me keep my peace and my calm, kind of keep myself level-headed, and then what I do if those things don't work. One of the things that I like to do is I like to run. I'm not very fast, and I take a lot of walk breaks. And I'm kind of awkward. But it's good exercise and I enjoy it.
I'm on my way home right now. Can you just wait like a minute?
I've run 4 half marathons so far in my life. I am currently kind of training for a 5th.
So, about 5 minutes after I got home, this happened. So I guess it listened.
I also enjoy a good long hot bath with a scented candle going.
Another thing that I have are what I refer to as my therapy notebooks. No one, and I mean absolutely no one, is ever allowed to read these. Not my husband, not my best friend, not my therapist, no one. But this one is like a tiny one that I might keep in my purse and just kind of carry around with me, put it in my pocket or whatever, so that I can write things down. This is one of my bigger ones that I keep at home. You can see that I like to keep, pretty pens to write with. I've always found like writing and journals and things like that in general to be really soothing for me. So what I do with these therapy notebooks is I write down all of my thoughts. If I've got a thought that I can't get out of my head, especially if it's something that I can't do right now, or something that I'm having to wait to work on if I'm not in wise mind yet, or if I'm not going to be able to talk to the person that I want to tell it to yet, or whatever, I can get those thoughts out in here. I can just, I draw, I doodle, I put emotional vomit in here. And I also write, letters that I'll never send. If I get angry or whatever, especially if it's like a rational anger, I'll put that stuff in here so that it's out of my head. All those mean things that you would say when you're angry, they're in here. They're not out in the world being said to anybody. They're in here. So that's one of the reasons that nobody's able to, read these, because these aren't necessarily things that I really feel about other people. If I've written about you in here, it's not real. It's the irrational thing in my head. Because when I'm having like irrational thoughts or emotionally fueled thoughts, or if I'm, splitting with a thought or whatever, if I write it down and I look at what I wrote, it processes in my brain differently than if I just think it.
But as far as like, what happens if those things don't work? What happens if I end up in a situation where I've had an argument with a friend and I am no longer at peace? Like, what can I do in that situation? And I thought that this would be a good time to talk a little bit about dialectical behavior therapy, which is referred to as DBT. That's what I'm talking about when I say DBT. I say it all the time. It's a specialized type of therapy. It was originally developed specifically for borderline personality disorder. It does get used for other things now, especially mood disorders like bipolar. It's really intense therapy. It sort of retrains you how to like deal with your emotions.
This is my handy dandy DBT notebook. It's like a manual for me. I keep this around. It's got all my homework and everything in it from when I was going through DBT, which I've now graduated from. But I still use this for reference. It's like my How to Live Life Like a Normal Human Bible.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about the distress tolerance module of DBT. One of the very first things that you do in distress tolerance is you distract. And there's this acronym called ACCEPTS, and it's, forgive me, I have it written down here. Activities, contributing, comparisons, emotion, pushing away, thoughts, and sensations. So that's how you spell ACCEPTS. But the point of distracting yourself is that sometimes you can't solve the problem right away. Maybe you're not able to talk to that person at the moment, or just whatever reason. Maybe it's something that's coming up in the future. You distract yourself with these particular skills. Some people do really well with the S in accepts, which is for sensations. You can like hold an ice cube in your hand. I know that a lot of like even therapists will have patients like dunk their head in a bucket of ice water. And supposedly that like automatically lowers your blood pressure. It's supposed to be really good for you. I don't do the sensation thing as much other than like a fidget cube or a stress ball. I use those a lot to put sensation in my hands. So mine is more like touch than it is for like temperature or smell or sight, although sometimes looking at soothing pictures can do that for me a little bit. So in situations where I have failed at using my skills and things have gone wrong, you have to move to radical acceptance. This is something that has sort of gained like popularity in the mainstream, but it's also one of the distress tolerance techniques taught in DBT. But radical acceptance is more than just it is what it is. Radical acceptance is choosing to believe that it happened, whether or not you approve of it or agree with it, it's there. And moving forward with the fact that it's there. You can't go back in time and change it. You can only live in the present. And so when I mess up, I have to try to radically accept the fact that, an argument happened. And it doesn't mean that, I did anything wrong necessarily. Sometimes it can just be a misunderstanding or a disagreement, or sometimes I wasn't even the one who started it. It just depends. And radical acceptance is something that helps you keep moving forward. And honestly, it can help you be, kinder and gentler with yourself and forgive yourself a little bit more. The bottom line, though, is that everyone is human. Everyone makes mistakes and everyone slips up sometimes. And I don't always do the greatest job of making sure that I do all my skills. People with BPD, we feel everything, and we feel everything intensely. We don't feel happy. We feel elated. We don't feel sad. We feel distraught. And so anything that causes us pain or uncertainty is going to cause our emotions to run very high, very fast. And so I try to use my skills the best that I can to stop that from happening. But occasionally in interpersonal conflicts, especially if it's something that makes me feel like a relationship is in danger, I can kind of revert back to pre-therapy days and just react. But I'm really working on reactivity to negativity and trying to slow down without also having someone say something negative to me and me just stand there and stare because I'm trying to get in wise mind. So I'm trying to practice it like actively, and that's one of the things that you have to do. You have to practice. You can't just think about it and then hope that it works in the moment. So I'm trying to practice my distraction techniques and my self-soothing techniques a little bit more, because they work really well if I'm just at home self-soothing. But if I'm in the middle of an argument, that's what I'm working on doing, is more like real-time work with my skills.
So don't let them steal your life.